A bit of an unexpected topic has started to take up quite a bit of space in US-China trade tensions. Unexpected because of the share that it makes up in US-China trade, the world's largest trading relationship. You can see that share right there. Can't see it? That's because it's too small to show up. Small in economic value, but significant in other ways. Rare earths have turned into a lightning rod in trade between China and the West, not because of their direct economic value, but because of their strategic importance to various industries, to electronics, aerospace, automaking, oil refining. And China has periodically used trade measures to squeeze the rare earth market to get what it wants in other areas. On that note, China has a practical monopoly over rare earths, the group of 17 elements that possess some magical property. They're extremely heat resistant or extremely magnetic or possessing some unique optical capability and so on. This makes them vital to many advanced technologies like wind turbines, batteries, electronics, and fighter jets. My name is Scott McKnight. I research innovation, energy, and global politics. In this 10-minute charge up, we're going to try and demystify a bit about rare earths, what they are, what they do, how China has built up a monopoly around them, and then what Western countries like Canada, the US, Australia, and Europe can do about breaking through that monopoly. Spoiler alert, it won't be easy, it won't be cheap, and it's going to take time. Time for your charge up. Let's go. Let's start in the news. China restricted the export of rare earth elements twice in 2025, once in the spring and recently now in October. That caused panic for companies dependent on those imports, including automakers like Ford that actually had to pause assembly lines for lack of supplies, magnets in this case. China's more recent restrictions in October were interpreted as a move to flex its muscles in trade negotiations before Xi Jinping's meeting with Trump during Trump's trip to Asia. Now, to make sure China has less influence in rare earths, the US and its allies are making moves to develop their own rare earth mineral supply chain, one that doesn't run through China. In recent weeks, a flurry of billion-dollar deals has been announced. That's translated to billions of dollars from government and private funds pouring into rare earth companies that most outside the industry have never heard of. JP Morgan Chase, the banking giant, committed to invest $10 billion in companies it considers important to US national security. That includes rare earth companies. Australia has been especially active and attractive in all of this since it's been by far the most active country in the West to fast-track the opening and expansion of mines that extract critical minerals. Actually, extract many minerals for that matter. Like the US government's move with Intel, the US government has taken a minority stake in MP Materials. That's America's flagship rare earth mining company. The Pentagon. I'm not saying Department of War, sorry. They awarded Ucore Rare Metals, a Canadian rare earth processor, $18 million to build its first commercial plant in Louisiana, and its stock has jumped more than 700% this year. You're hearing this from me at this point, which means it's probably too late to get in on any of this, and all of these stocks have fallen pretty hard since. But none of this changes some of the basic and hard to swallow realities of the rare earth industry. Mining rare earths is a tough business. Let's start with the geology. There are plenty of potential rare earth ore deposits out there. Some are as abundant as copper or considerably more abundant than precious metals like gold. The light rare earths, those are really the genuinely geologically rare ones. And you can see that here. So scarcity isn't really the problem. These deposits are scattered across a bunch of countries. Whether they're advanced as projects to become actual mines in production, that's another story. That's because actual production of rare earths tends to be very small, infinitesimally small compared to those base metals, and so they have less appeal to mining companies whose boards are already squeezed by capital discipline. Then there's the actual production processes themselves. Rare earths are stage 5 clingers, or what my psychologist would call unhealthily codependent. Separating them from each other is a real challenge. This clinginess inevitably requires many stages of processing and refining, and those techniques use things like flotation or magnetic or gravity or electrostatic processes, depending on the type of deposit and rare earth in question. Now, to get some of those rare earths out of the ground, well, that uses up a lot of water, energy, and sometimes some pretty environmentally nasty practices like acid leaching. That explains why some companies and some communities have pushed to close up and move those operations out. Move them to where? You got it. China. China now produces about 90% of the world's supply of refined rare metals. How did that happen? Back in the 1980s, when China was trying to find ways to modernize and to pay for tech imports for that modernization, extracting and processing rare earths were one way to do so. They were increasingly in demand from budding electronics and aerospace industries. And hey, China had abundant rare earth deposits. The Middle East has oil, China has rare earths, said China's leader Deng Xiaoping. There's another reason too. A 2-decade-long crisis in the global mining industry, which was then dominated by companies based in the US, UK, Australia, and Canada. Now, facing that crisis of low prices and an uncertain future, those companies did what a bunch of other Western-based multinationals did. They trimmed staff, they turned to more technology, and they outsourced. Yes, they outsourced to China. By the mid-2000s, the US rare earth industry had all but been wiped out, including practically every US facility that processed rare earths and turned them into magnets. Meanwhile, the heavy but strategic hand of the Chinese government coordinated state-owned companies, who of course are run by party members, with those big policy goals. And they made sure that those sectors were protected and supported with huge amounts of funding. Today, China's rare earth industry is under strict government-mandated quotas on production and hyper-consolidated around a handful of companies. The aircraft carrier model, they call it. Now, we should expect more state-ordered consolidation ahead as this industry becomes increasingly important to goals of the Chinese government. So, how to do this without China? Building a supply chain for rare earths without running through China requires many things. But maybe surprisingly, geology isn't one of them. It's not just about whether the deposits are commercially viable either, because that's already the wrong paradigm. These are strategic inputs. There's more. To have an independent supply chain, you'll need significant processing capacity to get them to the ultra-high standards that defense companies, battery makers, and wind turbine manufacturers need. Building that robust rare earth supply chain without China will also require experience and expertise, something that is very scarce or even non-existent outside of China. So where to get help if not from the Chinese, who've been doing this for decades? And this also occurs while Western universities are shrinking or closing up altogether their mining and advanced material processing programs. You'll also need to lock in buyers for your new supply chain too. That's automakers, wind turbine makers, the aerospace industry, and on and on. And you'll need those contracts for a significant period of time and for real quantities of supply. Altogether, this amounts to what is essentially a vertically integrated approach, something long shunned in the executive MBAs and undergrad econ classes in Western universities. All the while, China's state-backed mineral giants will still have a hold on the lever that can flood the world with low-cost rare earths at any moment and sweep away any of this progress. That brings us to another hard reality of the rare earth industry. Traditional mining economic models, they don't work here. The valuable materials are very small in quantity. They don't really make economic sense to mine on their own. The markets are not liquid. They're very, very small. So we need sustained policy and financial support so that this flurry of activity isn't washed away and again, washed away again. Do not expect China to cede this rare earth monopoly easily. Building a supply chain outside of China requires building an entire supply chain, from mines to processing facilities to long-term agreements with buyers. It also will require sustained policy help and some stern reminders to those companies about what is trying to be accomplished here. A strategic objective, not really an economic one. So that old habits like packing up and relocating for the sake of profits can't be repeated. I'm Scott McKnight. If you're looking for more content on energy, innovation, and politics, you know where to subscribe. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you're thinking. Thanks for watching. You're all charged up.
It won't be easy, and it won't be